Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Here Be Dragons. I am your host, Steven Stark, and joining me this week, not my regular co-hosts, but we've got people who have something to say on the current topic. So we've got Jolie, we've got Emma. They've both been here before, um, in like D&D and non-D&D context, I believe. Um, So, yeah, we are going to really dig into this as well as we can. But I'm going to start up front with a disclaimer. We are not legal experts. We are members of the tabletop role-playing game community. That is where we're coming from with all of what we're going to discuss. Now, we are intelligent, informed, and educated. So hopefully we can have something to say on the subject that's interesting, but like there is some legal stuff going on here. We are not commenting on legal stuff because that is a recipe for disaster. There are some fine channels out there, many of whom will be referenced today, who have done a lot of really great analysis of the stuff. So if you want more information, we're going to be able to provide links to a bunch of stuff. I have spent the last 5 days up to my eyeballs. Like, YouTube thinks this is the only thing I care about at all anymore. So hopefully we can sort of distill a lot of that information and provide you with, a perspective from the community that is being affected. So with that being said, I have been a member of that community for, I'm going to guesstimate, about 38 years. Pretty sure it was 10 when I played my first game of D&D, and I've never really stopped. And in the past 3 or 4 years, COVID and Zoom allowed us to really grow that community in a really big way. I'm happy to say several of you in the chat are playing D&D with me. I see a lot of our chat regulars in there now, and a lot of you I play D&D with. I play D&D with both of you, and I DM for both of you, and both of you DM for me sometimes. So, but yeah, Julie, I know you played a little bit of D&D before we started playing together, but really, like, your rise in the game was with us. And also, Emma, did you play your first D&D game with me?
Yep, you were my very first DM. Yeah.
Awesome.
Well, with me, it's kind of a fun story because I started with 4E, but no one seemed to be playing 4E. So I didn't get like a lot of action there. So when we started doing 5E in the Slack, that was my first real deep dive into
Right. But we've been playing together. The three of us have been playing together really close to 3 years now, I would say. So it's and we all play a lot of D&D. It's a big part of our, I don't want to speak for each of you independently, but I know from hanging out with you guys, we play a lot of D&D, all three of us. And this affects this community in a big, big way. And it's been a crazy, crazy week. So I just wanted to make sure that going forward, there were a few things that were clear up front. I'm going to be saying WotC a lot. That is short for Wizards of the Coast, WOTC. I also want to make sure that you understand there is a distinction between WotC's corporate leadership and WotC's staff, and that will become very important as this story develops. The majority of people that work at Wizards of the Coast are really on our side in this conflict. And I want to be clear that you shouldn't attack people that work at Wizards of the Coast. It really is their corporate structure that is responsible for this shenanigans. Okay, so that being said, Emma, you did a great deal of compiling stuff. So what the heck's happening?
What's the big deal? What is the big deal? So for anyone who is unaware of the situation, there is something that has been sort of really important to the development of Dungeons and Dragons 5th edition, and that is the Open Game License 1.0, which basically allows you to use some things from D&D's like public stuff in your work. So if you want to make a monster using a creature like a Shambling Mound, then you can, because Shambling Mounds are part of the system reference document. If you want to publish a new spell or a magic item, which in some aspects replicates or updates or builds upon a spell or magic item in the system reference document, you can, using this open game license, and you can do it for free, and you don't owe Wizards of the Coast or WotC any royalties at all. You can just do it and publish it in places. There are, and as long as you don't use things like, the Forgotten Realms setting or actual Curse of Strahd things, then you can do what you want. With, as long as you're not publishing things that are discriminatory or hateful. So an entire industry has arisen from this. It's like quite lenient in what it allows. So not only do you have printed materials from places like Kobold Press, Paizo, which originally sort of developed using the Open Game License, developed Pathfinder based on old D&D 3.5 things.
Remember the name Paizo. That's going to come up again later.
So Paizo are another publisher, as well as like indie creators. And because it was really flexible, it allowed for this flourishing of the tabletop community and allows people like us to go on the internet and talk about D&D and things like that. And like, obviously we can talk about it, but it allows us to reference things, do things in a without the threat of being sued by WotC and their owner Hasbro, who are very big. I don't know if you've ever heard of Hasbro before. Probably you have. It's a pretty common name. They own like things like My Little Pony and Power Rangers. And they are a big multi-billion-dollar corporation.
Peppa Pig.
Yeah. I don't know about you, but I do not have money to just lying around in case I get sued by WotC. It's just not something I have.
Most people don't, which again, like I'm jumping ahead in the narrative a little bit, but Paizo is a company that actually does have the resources to stand up to them and is doing so, and in so doing has kind of become one of the darling heroes of this narrative. You'll see more as we go along, but like I can't say enough good about Paizo right now. I don't want to play their game, but like I love them for what they're doing.
So the Open Game License, that's what it is. That's why it's important. That's why people care. Like it's basically the foundation of a lot of people's financials and a lot of people's like business. So Wizards of the Coast have decided to change that. And you put together the timeline, Steven. So
okay, so yes. I did put together a little bit of a timeline. Hold on, let me find the document again. It's right there. So this started, I believe it's the 10th. Okay, let's set the stage just a little bit. For the past, Wizards of the Coast owns two very big properties, Dungeons and Dragons and Magic the Gathering. Magic the Gathering is experiencing a huge downturn in their sales because they have overprinted their cards and they have sucked that market dry of resources. Hasbro stock is down something like 40%, which is big bad, right? So that is probably a large part of what started the D&D thing, because D&D is still a brand that is very recognizable. The community has a lot of goodwill towards Wizards of the Coast because of the old open gaming license, which allowed third-party content creators to create fantastic adventures and adventure settings and fun and interesting creatures and monsters and spells and magic items and all of that stuff, and to be able to publish it with, without having. It's good for Wizards of the Coast because they don't have to pay people to make all this stuff. And honestly, most of the third-party stuff is better than the Wizards of the Coast stuff you're going to get. So then on November the 10th of last year, a YouTuber called Indestructo Boy, and I want to make sure I get his name out here because the man is a hero. He makes a video about seeing the new OGL 1.1. And Hasbro denies it and gaslights him. Says it's fake and there's nothing to see here. It's just some random YouTuber trying to make a clickbait video. Then throughout December, Wizards of the Coast, again, allegedly, sent out new contracts with the new OGL attached. They will later claim that these were drafts, but you don't include a like I want feedback on this draft with the contract you're trying to get someone to sign. No, that is the license. It's not a draft of the license. But all these people are under NDAs and can't say anything. Then on January 4th, Gizmodo and IO9 get a reputable leak from someone inside Wizards of the Coast, again, one of those staffers, that shows that Indestructo Boy was not clickbaiting. He was being real and genuine, and all the points he raised were genuine points. And within 24 hours, the floodgates had opened. All the YouTube personalities who were not under NDAs started coming out of the woodwork. There's a couple of channels I want to reference specifically, and that is Roll of Law, ROLL, as in like rolling a dice of law, and The Rules Lawyer. Both did some really great work looking at the language of it and like really coming to the conclusion that yes, this looks like it's real. And it's so confusing because so much of this has happened within the last, 5 days, 6 days, less than a week. Like Wizards of the Coast delayed 2 live streams, put out 2 weak sauce excuses, one where they claimed to also win, which we'll get into. It's just okay. So this last week has been a whole series of people picking apart the new OGL, them delaying releasing it a couple of times when they said they were going to. There is uproar in this camp over these people haven't said anything yet, and then there's uproar in this camp because I don't like the way this person responded. But the vast majority of the community has pretty well united behind in one front, and that is like there are super chads that play this game. Okay, guess what? They're part of the movement. Like, I don't want them at my table, but they don't like this new OGL either. And yeah, exactly. Everybody wins. Wizards of the Coast claimed victory in one of their, this is what we wanted all along. Yeah, this is what you wanted. In that response, I don't have the full quote in front of me, but they, in their response, they're like what they posted publicly, they referenced that they rolled a 1. And, good on you for understanding you rolled a 1. The problem is they were rolling for the deception skill. They were lying to us the whole time.
Allegedly.
Look, allegedly. None of this is to be taken as fact. All our opinion. It's all opinion.
Yeah, let's put the alleged in a bit more often.
Yeah.
But yes,
there is.
Legal reasons.
That might be true, Sean. This might be a TPK. Anyway, I've rambled on long enough. The last thought I have, and Julie, I really want to hear from you. You haven't said much of anything yet. the last point I want to make is that there was an investor meeting with the CEO of Wizards of the Coast where D&D was said not to be a game, it's a brand, and the brand is under monetized. They want to monetize D&D like video games are monetized, meaning monthly subscriptions and microtransactions. It's not going to be enough to buy your D&D book anymore. You got to pay a monthly subscription for their online character sheet service, and then you've got to pay for the upgraded version later to get access to their virtual tabletop. And then, do you want this new skin? That'll be 99 cents. Do you want a flash effect when you cast spells? That's another $1.99.
Yeah, to get into that, because
sorry, go ahead, Joey.
When the one D&D got like announced and you got the first look at the virtual tabletop, I watched a reaction on that. It's no longer on the internet. I can't find it at the moment. But that was a YouTube channel with a lawyer who basically went over the announcement. Like he also straight got into that could be a lot of microtransactions when you see that virtual tabletop. Also building your character, you want to have your character have a nice outfit. That is probably the standard outfit is probably not a lot of fun, so you want to adjust that. That's probably microtransactions. As a GM, a point that they made, which I thought was very reasonable, is like if you do that, if you build all those microtransactions and you build that character and you spend like 20, 30, 40, $50 on your character and your dungeon master kills your character, what happens?
Right.
That was like part of my panic about the
yeah, and it's scary because like the only metric that corporate leadership ever cares about is money. So you have to hit them in the money. And unfortunately, sometimes that means you have to let go of things you paid for,
For context, I dropped £400 on D&D Beyond. I will still have access to that because I haven't gotten rid of my account. But that is £400 of material that I bought so I could share with people, and I cannot share things with people because I've cancelled my D&D Beyond subscription. And if this gets worse, I will get rid of my account, and that is £400. Yeah. And I am still. It's just like
sucks to be in that situation, but like I feel like I don't have much choice in the matter either. I have played Dungeons and Dragons of some iteration for well over 35 years. And to feel today like I don't want to ever play the game again because of how much they've soured me just over the bullshit of the last couple of months. It's devastating to me as a member of this community to feel like something I have loved for 38 years turned on me. And
amount of contempt that they show the people that buy their stuff is just that is a slap in the face, and like that will sour your experience because they think of us as basically being in the way, but like being an obstacle between them and their money, which is not nice.
Now that is what a WotC staffer said about the leadership. So like,
it's one of the leaks.
But you're right. But the staff at Wizards of the Coast feels like the management at Wizards of the Coast views us as obstacles to getting their money.
Yes.
Yeah.
Which is allegedly all of that.
Allegedly. Well, here's the thing. That was said. That is a document that you can go read, but the source of that document is supposedly a Wizards of the Coast staffer. We don't know who it is, although reputable sources reported it and did check and did verify that it was a WotC staffer, but it is an anonymous source,
But they also show that with their actions.
Mm-hmm.
It's very obvious when you look at what they are planning with the OGL, which they say was a draft, but they're, gaslighting a bit, probably because you don't attach contracts allegedly to those things and send them out. So, but if you look at how they treat the people in the community, like I think that quote of that thought of that anonymous person in WotC would not be strange if it was true.
Part of the problem too is that, like, there was a leak. They gaslit the guy that reported on it. Gaslit him for 2 months. Guess what? His channel has blown up in the last week, and rightly so. You know, he was looking out for the community, but it's just.
Should we get into some of the reasons about why
Yeah,
the
you know what,
1.1 was so egregious and why it caused such a backlash?
Let's go back to the timeline, sort of.
The way Wizards of the Coast views us is one problem, but yes, the OGL is like another problem that's happening at the same time.
Yeah, and I think it points to a common underlying attitude problem, right? Of like, we are and should be the only company in the world that gets money for tabletop games. No one else should exist, and we will make sure that that is possible by the infrastructure that we're building for the new edition of Dungeons and Dragons, and by sort of like software development, new virtual tabletop and stuff, and by instituting this egregious license, which does a lot of things which would make it, I would say, nigh on impossible to operate as a third-party producer of any form of content in the tabletop space. And I know that sounds like a lot, but like the amount of stuff that they put in here would scare me to work in this industry without being able to afford a lawyer to tell me what I was and wasn't able to do, which is just going to have a chilling effect on the entire industry.
Right.
So regardless of whether you can or not, the fact that this is like goes so hard, it goes like balls to the wall on, you will give us all of the things, is just a bit like, maybe not. And there will be so many people absenting themselves from the industry for that reason. And it's a lot. It's a lot. Okay.
Let's go to the OGL, like, because they are trying a lot.
Yeah. Go ahead.
So one of the first things, I'm going to just pick out key points of stuff that it does. I'm compiling this based on videos that I've watched, like Roll of Law, Rules Lawyer, also Discourse Minis, who set up a new channel, Dungeons and Discourse, Roll for Combat, and D&D shorts, industry support, all the content.
There's a lot of people out there making videos on this.
Yeah.
I would say hundreds at this point.
Yeah, and this is just our little corner of the internet who might not have heard about this. So,
but yes, and like, this whole stream isn't going to be about what's happening. It's also going to be about like the future. What do we do next? How do we move forward?
Yeah.
So stick around for that also. Yeah.
So one of the things that this new version of the OGL would do, so OGL 1.1 is the leaked document that caused all of the issues, all of the backlash. They have since walked back on some of these, but I think that it points at the direction of travel that they wanted to go in. So I think it's still important to cover. I hope everyone sort of agrees with me on that one. So the first thing it does is it deauthorizes the Open Gaming License 1.0a, and means that everything, regardless of when it was published, if you want to continue selling it, you've got to use the new license. You could have published this in 2011, right, with the first set of when was the first set of 5e rules? 2011.
2014, I think.
2014. Yeah, you could have published something in 2014, 2015, with the new rules, updating an old adventure of yours. And if you want to continue selling that adventure on like Drive Through RPG or whatever, it's now OGL 1.1. Enjoy that. So that's one thing. It is also limited to static content. So you're wanting to do live stream actual play stuff. You want to use things like that in your sort of content creation or your YouTube TikToks. Good luck. If you are developing a virtual tabletop for your friends or to expand because you know have a particular style that you want to use that Roll20 or another or Foundry or whatever doesn't capture. No. You used to be character building software. No. Ironic, given that that allowed D&D Beyond to create their character software that WotC then just bought. But yeah, so...
but now no.
Yeah. But now no.
Because they now own a piece of software that will do it for you. And they want you to use only theirs.
Yeah. I mean, that's the likely reasoning, probably. But we do not know. So, but it's just like, it's... Anyway, so virtual tabletops, highly significant in the rise of like supercharging the table, like the industry of tabletop and Dungeons and Dragons, supercharged by live streams, supercharged like things like Critical Role, for example, or you know, YouTube videos teaching you how to be a better dungeon master, or virtual tabletops that allow people to carry on playing during the pandemic. Essential to like the actual success of Dungeons and Dragons. I would not be playing Dungeons and Dragons had it not been for like the pandemic and things. And yet, no, not allowed that anymore.
And here's another thing. If I make a video once a month or once every 2 months on this YouTube channel and the topic has Dungeons and Dragons talk in it, and I make money from Patreon for these videos, theoretically, not as it stands in the current wording, but the current wording also says it can be changed at any time. They could literally want some of my Patreon money because I made a video about D&D.
Yep.
And like, now the current wording, like I'm well outside their target, whatever. They don't care about me. Not really. But theoretically, the new OGL could be changed to do just that.
Yeah. Like they give themselves so many rights that just mean that you will be like, okay, right now I'm fine, but what happens if? What happens if I get successful? What happens if they change their minds? What happens if... And you can't do anything about it. So one of the other things, and speaking of like you can't do anything about it, this is something that Roll of Law pointed out in their like live stream as they were going through clause by clause of this agreement. So it's talking about like how you terminate the agreement, and they can terminate it specifically. So they can say, you in particular, we are stopping you using this license for this particular reason. And reasons that they give are things like, hey, you published stuff from the Curse of Strahd, that you're not allowed to use that content. It also says we can terminate your contact if you produce anything that is discriminatory or hateful conduct. I think everyone in the world would say, like, you know what, that's fair and reasonable. Later on down the contract, just past that bit, you read it a little bit further, and it says, talking about the actual mechanisms for terminating your right to use the license. One of the options is, if you infringe upon or misuse any of our intellectual property, violate any law in relation to your activities under this agreement, or if we determine in our sole discretion that you have violated Section 8G, which is you've used content you shouldn't, or Section 8H, you've said something discriminatory or hateful. To be clear, we have the sole right to decide what conduct violates Section 8G or Section 8H, and you covenant and agree that you will not contest any such determination via any suit or other legal action. So if they do something, you can't sue them. If
Right.
they utterly
And
destroy
they
your
can-
business by this, you can't sue them.
And they have the sole right to decide what violates it.
Yeah. You also, to the extent necessary and allowed by law, you waive any duty of good faith and fair dealing we would otherwise have in making such a determination.
So we can be shitheads about it.
Yeah. So we can just say that it's racist, and it's our decision to say that, and it's we don't have any obligation of good faith or fair dealing in saying that it's that. We could just say it, and you can't sue us.
Okay, so I want to point this out, Kartik. Yeah, I watched that legal video as well, and you're right. He says you probably can't monetize the Patreon stuff. I actually have a comment on that video that's as well liked. But the point is, what if they send a letter that says, send us 25% or we're going to sue you? Me, content creator, I can't afford to contest Wizards of the Coast legal department. So an email might be threatening enough for a lot of people to just cave.
Yeah.
And they know this.
Mm-hmm. Also, there is a couple of things that they want to do in the OGL which might not be allowed. But as a role of law, Runkle of the Bailey, Ian Runkle said, as a lawyer, he is a lawyer. Interesting means expensive in legal terms. So you need a lot of money to try and have that adjudicated in court. Yes, it's interesting, and maybe they can't do all of that stuff, but it's going to be very expensive to figure that out. Which is a point they have because they are a massive corporation. Just saying.
Yeah.
I remember 20-ish years ago. Oh no, it had to be a little bit more than that. It was the late 90s, I think. Whenever Wizards of the Coast acquired Dungeons and Dragons from a failing TSR. Part of the problem there was that Gary Gygax had tried to sue third-party content creators into the ground, and it damaged the brand quite a bit. And the D&D brand was just about bankrupt, and Wizards of the Coast bought it and did third edition, and the OGL came around later with 3.5, but like it all of a sudden let people make side content. All you had to do was buy, and WotC didn't have to build all that stuff. They just made the core rule books. Great, buy some books, and then all these people can worry about the expense of writing and getting artists, and great. It's good for the game. It's good for Wizards of the Coast. It's good for the third-party content creators. And now corporate greed is just like, yeah, but what if we also took 25% of all of their profit too?
No, not 25% of their profit. 25% of their revenue.
Right, their gross revenue. Yes.
So that's before you paid your artist. That is before you paid the printer. That is before you paid all your employees or whatever writers that work for you.
It takes a successful Kickstarter. It takes a successful Kickstarter from somewhat profitable to the creators losing money.
Mm-hmm. It's absolutely wild. So yeah. I've got a bit about the different tiers and stuff later because it's incredible and not in a good way.
You know what? Let's get as much of the whole the OGL and the situation out in the first hour, because I really want the second hour to be a little bit more positive and a little bit more looking forward. So
okay, I'll run through these a bit more quickly then. Okay, so by signing on to the license at all, either the commercial or the non-commercial, because we've now split it into, either the commercial or the commercial license, you grant Wizards of the Coast this right. It says, you own the new and original content you create. You agree to give us a non-exclusive, perpetual, irrevocable, worldwide, sub-licensable, royalty-free license to use that content for any purpose. So, You own your content. You can do what you want with it.
Yep.
However, Wizards can undercut you. Wizards can publish it themselves. Wizards can take what is currently unlicensed content, the stuff in the system's reference document, and now make it licensed content. So it no longer falls under the terms of the agreement, and then you can't use that content anymore, even though it's yours. And they don't owe you any money for that. None. Even though you did the work. So, and if they decide that they're going to kick you, that you can't sue them over that, they still own your stuff because that's irrevocable. So, again, it's not the perpetual bit; it's the revocable bit. Apparently, that's yeah. According to the lawyers I've been listening to, that's the key term. No royalties for creators. Why would there be royalties for creators? Only Wizards gets the money. Anyway, so that's why everyone's like, hey, Wizards, you're out to steal our stuff. And then Wizards have gone, no, we said you own it. You own the new and original content you create. And so you know what? Can't be stealing.
Right. You theoretically could license that character to some other medium. Because you still own that character if it's just a character,
Yeah.
But if my thing that I own is a really kick-ass subclass I made for the monk that makes it not garbage, and then Wizards is like, okay, great, we're just going to put that in a book now, without crediting me. I can't really do much else with that, even though I spent 10 hours making sure it was balanced and all that stuff. Like they won't even put my name in the book.
And this is in it because of 5e flourished under the old gaming license 1.0a. And a lot of third-party content and stuff that has been made has been better received by the community than their part. It's very expensive to get all the writers write good adventures and all those things. So basically other people could create adventures for their game so that they didn't have to spend that money. But now they're getting extra greedy, and that's, I think, why you see this in the contract is they just want to outright take your stuff, maybe.
Yeah. They are taking your, because the thing as well is you have to use this license. They wanted it to be so that you had to use this license. So it's either you don't publish your work at all, or you publish your work and you own it. You can do things with it, but we are the ones who will have the marketing reach. We are the ones who have the finances to be able to undercut you. We are the ones who, will be able to do even more things to it. We could, let's say you are doing an actual play stream. You signed up to this license. One of the characters in the actual play stream is incredibly popular. Something like Jester from Critical Role, right? And then they own Jester as a character. So then they sub-license her as a particular, a new toy or something. And it's just like, and they make money from it, and Critical Role would get nothing, and Laura Bailey would get nothing. Theoretically, again, I'm not a lawyer, so I don't know if that's for certain, but that feels like the vibe of what they're going for, right?
I want to share with you guys a microcosm of this whole thing, okay? A year and a half ago, a Kickstarter came around that I paid into, okay? I knew when I paid into it, I was more than a year away from getting the product that I Kickstarted. It's like that sometimes. It was an idea for a book that somebody wanted to make. I Kickstarted it, and then you have supply chain problems, and then you have it's on a cargo ship from China, So it arrived a couple of days ago. This is the Questonomicon from the YouTube channel XP to Level 3. This is a compilation book of low-level adventures for 5e. At the very back page, you will see open game license. And there's all the text of the OGL because it's referencing Dungeons and Dragons stuff. The real heartbreaker is this is a bunch of starter adventures for D&D meant to make it easier for me to introduce people to the game through low-level play. Guess what? I don't want to use this anymore. it's a D&D product now. And the thing is, I love those guys over at XP Level 3. He's funny. They're, a great part of the community. But like, they have soured the game so much that a book I looked forward to for a year and a half arrived and I was sad.
Yeah, that's sad.
Like
they
Wizards, this is what you did. You broke my heart. You broke my heart.
Mm-hmm. It's heartbreaking.
Well,
It really is.
corporations are psychopaths, so that is
Yeah. But like, I remember a time where Wizards of the Coast was like, no, they're like, because the OGL brought them so much. The 1.0A OGL brought them a lot of respect, and it let them rise to like the dominant position. Like, sure, there's the name recognition that you have, but in 2014, when 5th edition came out, they had something like 40% of the tabletop RPG the money spent on tabletop RPGs. About 40% was spent on Dungeons and Dragons. Last year, it was about 85%, I believe. Excuse me, about 85%. So they doubled their market share. Not only do they have that name brand recognition, but things like Critical Role, and the rise of the live play and the rise of nerd culture in general has really like exploded the hobby. But corporate greed gonna corporate greed, and now we're here. I'm sorry. I'm mad. I'm mad and I'm heartbroken. And I almost want to like we need to get through the rest of the contents of whatever the OGL says, because I really need to put
this is not everything, guys. We've been going for 42 minutes. This is not everything.
We're nowhere near everything.
Oh dear. Okay.
All right, go ahead.
One of the other things that I noticed, again, Runkle pointed this out on Roll of Law, something I've not seen mentioned much, is that it requires you to indicate specifically what is the SRD content that you're using, what bits of the system reference document you're using, and what bit is yours. Now, that might not seem like much for people who haven't read many adventures or haven't attempted to write an adventure. However, it is hell. That system reference document is long, and a lot of the times people will be doing like settings, worlds, and they put the open gaming license there so that first of all, people, they're just covered just in case, right? Like, I don't think I've used anything that might be related to the system reference document, but I don't know for certain, so I'm just going to put it here to be safe. Can't do that anymore. You've got to indicate specifically what of the SRD you're using. In addition, other publishers like Paizo, when they were doing Pathfinder 2e, have moved away from using sort of D&D rule set that they use built for sort of PF1, and have added the open gaming license so that other people can use their work under the open gaming license for creating sort of Pathfinder 2e content. It makes things very hard, very messy. I also think it would probably be hard for accessibility reasons as well. Like, how do you indicate in a way that, oh, this is SRD content and this is my content, in a way that doesn't make it hell for a screen reader? Like, oh, this word's in red, this word, or like this word's like italicized, and this word isn't.
Yeah, and like at some points, it's not even clear what would need to be italicized and what would not. Like, do I need to italicize fighter? It's definitely like I'm referencing the class in the SRD, but like, is the term fighter broad enough that it's?
Yeah, it's messy. It is messy and would be very, very hard to implement in a way that is effective and useful for people. And it's not really that useful because you don't need to indicate what the SRD material is. It's not necessary for anyone using that material.
Under the old license.
Under the old license. Well, no, just in general. Like, I don't care whether it's SRD or not. All I care about is where is the monster in this dungeon? Like, it doesn't matter whether the monster is a homebrew monster or an SRD monster. I just need to know what the monster does and where it is.
Yeah, but if you were to abide by the new rules, it would be with a lot of annotations and like maybe different like color text or however they want to delineate that, and that would make it more difficult. And under the old license, they didn't have to do that. They just add the old license at the back of the book.
Yeah, I do wonder if it relates to some things for the commercial license to make it easier to identify which is the new content and which is not. So part of the thing when you're trying to sell your stuff, you have to so this bit seems to have changed significantly or been walked back a bit based on what that new statement was that was released on Friday. The royalty structure, it said there's not going to be one. However, it didn't say that it wouldn't require like registration on their system, which the OGL 1.1 currently says, like, oh, we need you to register on our system.
And it's just a statement. We don't have the text.
Right. We do not have the actual OGL right now.
Yeah. So if you're a commercial person trying to use the OGL 1.1, again, some of this has been walked back in the WotC Jan 13 statement, but we don't have the actual thing, so it could all just be platitudes. We don't know. But this is what they wanted to try, which is an indicator of sort of where their headspace is at. It introduces a tiered creator structure based on how much your products are earning. So at initiate tier, it's gross revenue between $1,000 and $50,000 in 1 year. Intermediate is your registered works earning between $50,001 and $750,000 gross in a year. And expert tier is you earn over £750,000 gross in a tier, and that's when the royalties kick in. Now, all products.
Dollars, not pounds. Sorry.
Dollars. Oh, did I say pounds? Sorry.
The last one you did.
Sorry, I meant dollars. Guys.
Yeah.
So they require you to register in their system, which would be on D&D Beyond. No matter what tier you are in or how much money you believe your project will make, you must register with us any new licensed work you intend to offer for sale by going to insert detail, because this is the leak, filling out the form there and including a description of the licensed work. We'll also ask for your contact information on where you intend to publish, and its price, among other things. You know, the core information they would need to be able to undercut you when you have given them the right to use your work on a non-exclusive, perpetual, irrevocable, sub-licensable, royalty-free basis for any reason.
It never crossed their mind to do that.
No, you're just giving them all the information they would ever need and the rights to be able to just take your stuff and print it themselves. It's just, but never crossed their minds. Anyway, sorry, I'm like incredulous still about the audacity of this. Anyway, when you hit that intermediate tier, so you're earning more than $50,000 in a given year.
Not earnings, gross revenue. Let's be very
clear.
Oh,
yeah. When your products are selling for a gross revenue of $50,000 in a given year, as soon as you make that, and revenue means any income you make selling a work licensed under this agreement or from crowdfunding those works or any other income source. Very broad, and reach the intermediate tier, you will need to report your income to Wizards, because apparently they're the IRS now. In addition, you need to provide us with your year-end numbers.
Okay. What? I'm going to call an audible here, okay? There's more. There's still more to this thing. So this is the leaked document. This is what we're pretty sure they wanted to push out. I believe the original day they were going to drop it was Tuesday of this last week, which would have been the 10th, I think. Yes, the 10th. That didn't happen. There were canceled live streams and people don't know what happened. Then they said they were going to drop a new OGL on Monday, which would be tomorrow. This is a statement that came out Friday. The same statement where they were super salty and said that they won, that we won and they won, because like corporations make mistakes, and sometimes they're like, look, we stepped in it, we made a mistake, and we're sorry. And I can respect that. But it's like, no, we won too. Like, it's just so petulant. And they said they're not going to have the sort of monetization thing, and it's not going to rip away the old OGL, and it's not going to like.
They did not confirm that it would not remove the old OGL.
They said it wouldn't. All right. Well,
No,
okay.
They didn't confirm. I was having a close reading. They did not confirm they would not deauthorize OGL 1.0.
No, they still are planning to go ahead with that. They didn't mention that.
Okay. They're definitely going to do away with the old OGL, but they're not going to force all the stuff under the old OGL to now be under the new.
Oh yeah, that stuff. Yeah, they've confirmed.
Yeah. So like they've backpedaled and watered it down, and I think they're gonna. We'll see what happens Monday. But
but it's sorry.
It's just a bunch of crazy legalese BS meant to bully and intimidate the entire rest of the gaming community. Now, this had a backlash as people who have been like in it, like as I said at the top of the stream, YouTube thinks the only thing I care about right now is the D&D OGL. And to be fair, I have watched a lot of stuff trying to be ready for this and trying to figure out what the heck is actually going on. So
we're not even through.
So like the rendered down brass tacks version is WotC really disrespects its entire customer base, or at least the management at Wizards of the Coast, very much disrespects its player base, only cares about our money, is trying to save as much face as possible right now, and has already lost a vast amount of money because of people canceling their subscriptions to their online character service. And then there's Paizo, who had maybe one of the most baller corporate moves I've seen in a long time, because they won themselves a whole lot of points.
Maybe we should also get to the worst bit.
Okay.
We are still into the OGL. Like
trying to get out of the OGL. So what's the worst bit, Julie?
Well, Emma had made that point. We didn't have the expert level tier yet, which is
I see.
Yeah. So yeah, the expert tier is the royalties bit. So anything you earn above $750,000 US gross results in 25% royalties to WotC, or 20% from Kickstarter, because that's so nice. Again, belies the fact that this is a draft, because if Kickstarter have negotiated this, then like, is it really a draft? If Kickstarter have signed on something, like, dubious. Might still be a draft, but dubious. And also note that profit margins for like third-party products are slim. 25% royalties automatically prevents a business from like earning $750,000 gross. And remember that when you're paying, like there's a bit where it's saying we're paying royalties, it doesn't matter, it's not per project, it's your gross revenue in a given year. So it just fundamentally is like your business cannot become $1 million business. No, we're not letting it.
Or you're going to take 25% of your gross profit.
Or which again, like
revenue. I keep saying profit, and that's not even right.
It's not
revenue.
It's revenue.
Before you pay everyone.
Yeah. So that fundamentally means that it is almost impossible to make a profit unless you start charging well above the odds. Well above competitive rates for the products that you're selling, in which case WotC will undercut you. It's just lose-lose on any given situation. It fundamentally becomes nigh on impossible for a business to exist when it earns a gross revenue of above $750,000 US in a year. And so that's when this one line kicks in. Again, Roll of Law pointed this out. That's where I noticed it is, if you have note that if you appear to have achieved great success that is consistently meeting or exceeding the expert tier qualification, from producing OGL commercial content, we may reach out to you for a more custom and mutually beneficial licensing arrangement. Again, they know your financials. They know what products you are selling. They may have published your work because you have like within licensed content because you gave them the right to do that. And by signing on to this, and then they reach out to you for, okay, you only need to pay 10% royalties, but also every single character that you have needs to be sub-licensed on the 1D&D virtual tabletop as an option for people to play as characters in our new AI DMing, where because you can't find a DM, so people will play your party. It's just like, so it's transparently just forcing people into this ecosystem where you cannot survive as a business person except by the express permission of Wizards of the Coast. And that is fucking sickening. Excuse my language.
So Roll for Combat did like a bit of a breakdown about like what it takes to bring out a D&D book as a third party. How would that, like, the money be split? Which is, if you want to sell it in a store or whatever, usually the split is about 50-50. 50% for the store, 50% for you. Then you need to pay your writers. They get a certain percentage. You need to pay the artists. They get a certain percentage. Which is already going off of the 50% of the total price of the book, that you get 50% of that. And then it goes like, you pay your artists, your writers, and all that from that 50%.
Printer, yeah.
Printing a book is very expensive.
Editing. Any playtesters that may have had financial compensation for participating.
Yeah.
But then
you're paying for shipping.
But then WotC butts in and says, no, before you pay the store, before you pay your artists, all your creators, you need to pay us first 25%, which is that 25% going off of the store that sells your book? Is that 25% coming off of your cut? And if it's coming off of your cut, how much do you really get? If
none. And it's designed to be that way so that if you make that kind of money, they force you into working only with them.
Yeah, but I thought it was helpful.
Remember
that breakdown.
Yeah,
that really helped me see how insidious it was.
But like, it doesn't apply to the first $750,000. Okay, great. But then as soon as it does kick in, now you need to make $10 million for it not to matter as much. But even then, you know, they'd love for you to make $10 million and get 25% of that for nothing.
Yeah. I remember all of this is under the threat of potentially they have the sole discretion to decide whether your work stays as a sort of licensed thing, and you waive any right to be able to sue them. You waive any right of good faith or fair dealing in making such a determination as to whether or not they can terminate specifically your license. So you're negotiating the expert tier with, my business cannot survive with 25% royalties. They can kick me out at any time. Do you like the only option is that custom arrangement, and you have no idea what the terms are. They just say custom, mutually beneficial.
And guess what? They can already use all the stuff you've already made too.
Yeah.
They keep that.
So it's not like you can walk away from the table and gain anything. Like,
so I think like that was the most important parts of the OGL.
Okay.
I mean, all of it is awful. Like,
all of it. Yeah.
It is 9,000 words of awful.
Yeah, it is. It's a pile of garbage meant to confuse and intimidate.
Yeah, as I think Legal Eagles screen the thumbnail put it for their video. Is this the epitome of lawful evil? Yes. Yes, it is. You can imagine this being signed out by any chain devil or bone devil that exists.
Congratulations, Emma. You are depicting Jess's inner feelings.
Just increasingly posh and high-pitched voice as I flap.
Right. Okay,
After
so
that dropped, there came a backlash, and I think that is pretty important too.
yeah, we'll get to it. Well, let's do a mid-roll.
Okay.
Yes.
Hi, everybody. This is YouTube. Please like, please subscribe. I'd appreciate it. Julie, Emma, you guys really don't do, I mean, like you guest occasionally here and there, but you're not really doing anything right now, I assume, right? No, nothing you need to plug?
No, nothing.
Okay, well then.
I mean, I was writing an adventure, however.
Right, we'll get to that. We'll get to that probably by the end, we'll talk about that type of stuff. So next week we're going to be doing, God, what's that show called? It's a Star Wars one. The Bad Batch, which we were going to do this week, but this was just too topical. Like, it's happening right now. We needed to talk about it right now. And John was really great about saying, yeah, we'll just push it a week. Thank you, John. Love you, buddy. I don't know if you're in the chat or not. He doesn't play Dungeons and Dragons, so he doesn't really care about this. So I wouldn't be surprised if he's not here. But, maybe he is and he's just chilling. And if not, that's okay too. Hope you're watching a movie you like. Probably Lord of the Rings. But yeah, so yeah, Bad Batch next week. Other stuff coming up in the future. I don't know what. Legend of Vox Machina, new season's coming out soon. So yeah, like Friday at least. I'm not sure how many episodes are dropping Friday, but we'll see.
Hopefully, it'll follow the same pattern.
Like 3 at a time. Yeah, I really liked that sort of release model. So yeah, that's what's coming. That's what's coming. Thank you, patrons. Our patrons who are literal dragons. Don't fact check that, but they literally are dragons. Including the 2 great Wyrms, ridiculous Ed Tollett. This person right here. He's a dragon. Don't let him fool you. Like, he appears human sometimes, but he's literally a dragon. But also Lord John Bronsteen the Wise, who is not in the chat, but still. And of course, they are attended by the court of elder dragons, including the Cloaked One of the Underworld, Wherein Stavka, the Russian Quartermaster, Reflective Rambling, Arch-Maester Emma. Who could that be? That's her, by the way. Kate, Mistress of the House of Books. This lady right here. I know I saw Reflective Rambling earlier, but I think she left. Jared Kozal, Doctor of Dragons, who should be on with us next week to talk about the Bad Batch. Lady Maura Lee of Starfall, and Lady Rita, the Unbound. Thank you, patrons. Love you guys. Yeah, I think that's it for the mid-roll. Oh yeah, if you want to join, if you want to play some sort of tabletop role-playing game with us, you should join our Slack group, because that's where we organize a lot of this stuff. And you can do that by sending me an email at we3dragons@gmail.com. 3 is spelled out. It's there on the screen, though, if you want to reference it. we3dragons@gmail.com. And I'll send you an invitation to our Slack group, and you can come play D&D with us. There's not always a game, but there's a lot of games. So if you have a little patience, you'll get in, I promise. Okay, so let's get back to the conversation, shall we?
Let's do the backlash, because it was yummy.
Okay. Julie, what is backlash?
Well, the backlash was amazing. People really got together and tried to decide to protest this this new plan of Hasbro and WotC by streaming about it, making it public, explaining to a lot of people what it would mean for them and for creators. And everyone joined together. It's like all the versions of D&D. Even like, you have the people who love the old school D&D, and you have the newer version, newer people that came into 5e. You have them all banding together with other tabletop games that that didn't click always that well,
Right?
and making a fist together,
Yeah.
which I am here for.
It's a
'Cause-
bit of a meme in the tabletop RPG community, whether you like D&D, Pathfinder, D&D, Pathfinder, but like we were standing shoulder to shoulder on this one. Everybody was ready to give the finger to Wizards of the Coast. People who normally can't agree on anything were like in the same army. There is a really fantastic video. The channel is what, Double Crit Fail, I think. Emma, you posted that video from Twitter from them. They have a YouTube channel, and you can see it there as well.
Should I post it in chat? I've got the link to the tweet.
Okay, it's an Avengers. It's like it's the Avengers Assemble scene from Endgame.
Thanos, right?
Yes, with Thanos at Endgame, and like Thanos is representing Hasbro, and it's good. It kind of captures the essence of the whole thing.
Avengers Assemble.
Mm-hmm. Have you seen that video, Julie?
Yes, I've seen the video. Yeah. It is amazing. All the different movements that started. You have the movement open D&D that started to basically have every creator that didn't want to sign on to the new OGL, they could sign that open letter to WotC and Hasbro, and it has been signed by most of the people who could sign that open letter.
Yeah, people who were not already contractually intertwined with Wizards of the Coast.
Yes.
And real talk, there are some people who were quite upset that the people at Critical Role didn't have any comment. But like, you've got to understand, those people have been working with Wizards of the Coast for years now, and they have contracts and NDAs and all of that stuff.
Yeah,
probably a non-disparaging clause in their contract.
Yeah, physically not allowed to say anything bad about Wizards. So we support indie creators and
the
diversity.
We've
and
always supported the community. And like,
read between the lines with.
I would love for him to be able. I would love for Matt Mercer to just be able to come out and say, you know what, I haven't said it up to this point, but I'm going to say it now and mean it for myself. Fuck Wizards of the Coast. Fuck Hasbro.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But
and I wish Matt Mercer was able to come out and say those things himself. He can't.
But he probably can't. So I am not blaming them, but if you read between the lines with the actions, like Matt Mercer liking that tweet and the statement that they put out later, it's definitely trying to do all of that without actually disparaging Wizards of the Coast. They're walking a line there.
This is the reason that, like, I'm still going to watch Vox Machina and just enjoy myself. But I don't want to go watch the new Honor Among Thieves movie with Chris Pine. And that sucks because I was actually kind of excited to go watch a D&D movie. But they managed to suck my enjoyment out of anything associated with that brand. Yeah. So that being said, now what? We don't have a good OGL. What can we possibly do?
Well,
we gather an Orc Horde.
Orc Horde is a good thing. I just wanted to point out still that with the backlash also came the canceling of the subscriptions of D&D Beyond. Yep. Because Wizards of the Coast bought D&D Beyond, and there was a leak from within the Wizards of the Coast about that. Basically, they are looking at like numbers. People at Hasbro and Wizards of the Coast, the management are looking at the numbers, at metrics they can see. So a lot of people decided to cancel their D&D Beyond subscriptions because that is the information that they're looking at according to the inside leak.
to cancel their D&D Beyond description, and to the point that like D&D Begone was a trending hashtag for a good while.
Yes, and you see that a lot of people share like Jenny D, or a lot of people shared their pictures of their canceling of their subscription, which is having an effect, it seems. So I wanted to throw that out there, because if you have a D&D Beyond subscription and you haven't canceled it, please consider, you don't have to do it, but if you are able to do it, please consider canceling your subscription.
Right, like I'm not going to name any names. I have a friend who has chosen not to cancel their subscription because several people rely on them for their ongoing games. And, like, I get it. Not everybody is in the same position. And I don't hold that against anyone. I wanted them to make an informed decision, and they did. And I respect them, and I love them, and I'm going to continue to play. And I'm actually going to continue to play D&D. I played D&D today.
Me too.
Yeah, I know. We almost overlapped games because we used the same Zoom link. But
Yes.
But like I'm never at this point. Things could change, who's to say never, but at this point I don't think I really ever need to buy another D&D product ever again.
Not of Wizards of the Coast.
Right.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like they I think they fundamentally misunderstood what tabletop games are. Like, it's not like video games where you can trap people in an ecosystem, because if you're not playing your video game on like Xbox or PS5 or on your laptop, you can't play it. You can't play it unless you are on their system. It is impossible to play the game unless you are on their system, really. But like, we can just imagine things. Like, imagination is free and anyone could do it, and it's been a game that's lasted an extremely long time because you could do it easily in your brain with the book.
That's what we do. The books and stuff, they provide a framework for us to understand what you can and can't do and how good you are or are not at doing those things. But like the rule, we played a game, and the three of us played together, called Daggers and Dalmatians, or Dalmatians and Daggers. And it's all of the rules fit on a single piece of paper. Like, that's the whole rules. One sheet of paper, one side.
Mm-hmm. And that is rules for players and GMs, and a resource for GMs to make a game out of it.
Everything you need to run the game fits on one side of one piece of paper. And we had a blast.
Oh, it was amazing.
So like that's kind of lead us into, let's talk about the orc, okay? Let's talk about the orc in the room. Because to me, this is one of the biggest corporate wins I've ever seen. Paizo is a company that makes a game called Pathfinder. They also make a game called Starfinder, but let's focus on Pathfinder for a minute. Pathfinder was an RPG that came about in the early days of OGL 1.0, the old OGL, the one they're trying to kill. And it's really sort of an alternative to D&D. I said, I don't want to play your game earlier, and I'm joking. So Pathfinder is not Dungeons & Dragons. They're related. They have a lot of the same DNA, but Pathfinder is really much more concerned about you being able to customize your character to be really great at doing the things you want to be really great at. I heard one content creator describe it as a shonen game. It was really great for making shonen characters who are amazing at the specific things they do. Whereas D&D is a lot more generalized, a lot less customizable. It's also, the Pathfinder rules are also a lot crunchier when it comes to combat. So stacking pluses and positioning is a lot more important in Pathfinder than it is in Dungeons & Dragons.
Can I break into this for 1 second? Okay, so Pathfinder really also was kind of a reaction, because 4E came out, which had a closed gaming license.
Mm-hmm.
So you couldn't make materials for 4E as a third party. They still wanted extra material, basically, for 3.5, which Pathfinder got created as a reaction as well to a closing off of the license with 4E for a bit. Like, it became popular because of it published under the old OGL. So just a bit of a history thing there. It had a reason.
Right. So, but like, I raise that point to say Pathfinder is not the game for me because nitty gritty, crunchy combat stuff is not really what I want out of my game. I'm much more a narrative storytelling type game master. And most of the people that play with me will know that. But like, that's just one way to play a tabletop RPG. There's the right way to play any tabletop RPG is the way that you're having fun doing it. To that end, I think that most of the time we have a lot of fun. We goof around. We played beach volleyball recently.
Yeah. Thanks, Nessie. I stole those mechanics today.
Yeah. Yep. We played beach volleyball in Dungeons and Dragons. Yes, we did. What, Thursday? This last Thursday?
But, literally the most exercise I've gotten since the start of the pandemic.
playing volleyball in D&D. That's funny. So okay, I keep trying to get to the orc and we keep getting distracted, but I really do want to make sure I talk about this. So Paizo, the company that makes this, they have been publishing their stuff under the OGL 1.0A for a long time. Even though their game is now, their second edition of Pathfinder is pretty distinct enough from Dungeons and Dragons that they really don't need to publish it under the OGL 1.0A anymore. However, they continued to do so that other content creators could continue to make Pathfinder stuff and not worry about the OGL implications. Then all of this happened. And then Wizards of the Coast kept not saying anything. And finally, Paizo said, well, now is the time. So who wants to talk about what Paizo said? Or do you want me to do it?
Oh, you can okay. Do it, but I just wanted to say it's an excellent PR move to drop that. Well, Hasbro and Wizards of the Coast seem like weak sauce, and they're like no.
Yeah, like it was on, for context, this was on the day that they were reported to be dropping like information about all of the backlash. Their server or their subscription service on D&D Beyond went down and then became very, very hard to access. Not saying those two things are related or in any way intentional at all, but just saying that's what happened. They had a stream scheduled on D&D Beyond, which was very, very, which went briefly live for like a second, and the chat was spammed with #OpenD&D, #OpenD&D, #D&D be gone, like OpenD&D,
and they were just
and then immediately like the entire stream got shut down. And then privately in a server, it was like, sorry guys, this is an old schedule, sorry about that, even though several sources had indicated that was when things were supposed to drop, according to sort of reputable sources like Roll for Combat, were saying that was a thing. That all happened. It was chaos. Still nothing from Wizards. They're hemorrhaging subscribers. It's going rampant on Twitter that you should unsubscribe from D&D. Everything like D&D Beyond made it very, very hard. Or like it became very, very hard.
Yeah, they hit the unsubscribe button.
Potentially, allegedly, I don't want to say anything because it might be considered illegal in places and then might not be in other places.
Allegedly, they hit the...
Allegedly, they hit, yeah. Not saying it was intentional. It might have been an accident because of the volume of traffic, or a design because of the volume of traffic could have shut down the server.
The Wayback Machine stuff, like, it used to be unsubscribe here, then they moved it to another web page. Like, you had to find it buried somewhere and click the link, and it would take you outside. Yeah,
I'm just saying that it may not have been
allegedly
maliciously done. I'm just saying it, like, there may have been infrastructural reasons for it because of the volume of traffic.
Because of the volume of traffic. Okay, that's a fair point.
I'm just saying it's not necessarily intentional or malicious corporate practice or anything like that.
Shithead's gonna shithead, and they just...
Yeah, I just want to make sure that we're...
Yeah.
They don't sue us.
You could definitely read that into my opinion. You could definitely read it into it. It's just not.
Yeah,
We
so
don't know.
background setting, all of this chaos is happening. No one knows what's happening.
And
It's
then
been radio
Paizo
silence
comes
for
in.
wizards, and then Paizo sweeps in.
I'm going to read an excerpt from their. This is not their entire post. This is about the middle third, which has the most interesting parts, I think. We have no interest whatsoever in Wizards' new OGL. Instead, we have a plan that we believe will irrevocably and unquestionably keep alive the spirit of the open game license. As Paizo evolved, the parts of the OGL that we ourselves valued have changed. I don't know that this is the most interesting part right here. By the time so this is the part where they're explaining they don't really need the OGL any longer. We still published under the OGL. The reason was no longer to allow Paizo to use Wizards expression, but allow other companies to use our expressions. We believe, as we always have, that open gaming makes games better, improves profitability for all involved, and enriches the community of gamers who participate in this amazing hobby. We also invite gamers around the world to join us as we begin the next chapter of open gaming with the release of a new open, perpetual, and irrevocable open RPG creative license, the ORC license, org license. The new open RPG creative license will be built system agnostic for independent games publishers under the legal guidance of Azora Law, the intellectual property law firm that represents Paizo and several other game publishers. Paizo will pay for this legal work. Huge PR coup there, by the way. Paizo is footing the bill to make this new license. We invite game publishers worldwide to join us in support of this system-agnostic license that allows all games to provide their own unique open license rules reference documents that open up their individual game systems to the world. To join the effort, okay, if you want to join, blah, 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 this is how you join. There's a whole bunch of other companies that have also signed on. Luminaries, Beyond Pies, pretty big publishers, Kobold Press, Chaosium, Green Ronin, Legendary Games, Green Genius Games, and several others have already signed on. Here's the part that's important. The part that makes me fall in love with Paizo all the more. The ORC will not be owned by Paizo. The OGL is owned by Paizo. Or is owned by Wizards of the Coast, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Nor will it be owned by any company who makes money publishing RPGs. Azora Law's ownership of the process and stewardship should provide a safe harbor against any company being bought, sold, or changing management in the future and attempting to rescind rights or nullify sections of the license. Ultimately, we plan to find a nonprofit with a history of open source values to own this license, such as the Linux Foundation. So I love it. I just kind of love it theoretically. An open license, not owned by anyone, held by a third party, a nonprofit third party.
Yeah. And they could even, I think, put that in the terms of the license and stuff, that it can't be owned by anything than a nonprofit.
Mm-hmm.
If they're really, going to do this, you could definitely make it also able to not be owned by any for-profit company.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, and that's likely going to be language in the actual ORC. So the ORC does not exist yet, but this is an idea that Paizo has put forward, and they're sort of championed it.
It's just point for point being like, what did Wizards get wrong? And we will specifically do the opposite. Like, it is point for point, like, we're gonna get open feedback from the community, which then Wizards clearly like smushed into their statement that they released the day after.
It was an enraging, almost comical statement of Wizards of the Coast that they brought out.
Yeah, I don't even want to read it. You can find it online.
Yeah.
It's a comedy.
If you ever dealt with a narcissist, you might get triggered by that statement.
Yeah.
It is. It's so funny.
Okay. So,
yes.
Look, that's a whole bunch of stuff we've talked about up to now. But at this point, let's talk about the future. We've talked about what was. We've talked about where we're at now. Let's talk about what can be. What's the future look like? For me, right now, D&D is not in my future. I mean, actually, that's not true. new campaigns of D&D are not in my future. I want to keep playing the ones where I already have an emotional investment in the characters that I'm playing with, the people that I'm playing with. But when I get to the end of a campaign, I'm not replacing it with another D&D campaign. I'm going to play something else. I don't know if that's where either of you are at, but at this point, I just don't want to play the game anymore.
I don't know. It's for me. It's the game. I like the 5e system.
Right?
I am definitely going to continue DMing probably 5e for a while. I've only started not so long ago, and I have so many different adventures of third parties I can still play.
Well, the thing is also like, you paid for that stuff. It's yours. You should be able to use it.
Yeah. So I like the system, but I'm also definitely open to other systems now, way more than I was before. Like the D&D drama started going, and for me, I kind of started panicking when 1D&D got announced about like what they're planning to do with that. So that was when I really wanted to open my horizons, and I really liked playing. I've done a session of Call of Cthulhu. That was amazing. I had so much fun. I played Blades in the Dark with Emma, which is an excellent game. Which also we did the silly game with the daggers and Dalmatians, which I enjoyed a lot. So I'm definitely not tied down to D&D
Right.
5e. I don't want to spend money at Hasbro or Wizards of the Coast. I don't want them to get my money, so I will not be buying any new Wizards of the Coast materials.
Right.
They have basically, you know, they taken away the goodwill, and
Exactly. Like they have squashed 38 years of loving their game and they ruined it in moments. Well, no, honestly, it's the fact that they were gaslighting and the comments from the CEO and the handling of it and the like weak ass statements and like it's 38 years and in 2 weeks they just ruined it all for me.
oh.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think for me, I'm also going to be moving away from D&D. I mean, I've been wanting to try other systems anyway, because I think there are a lot of good games out there. And I bought, there was a itch.io like bundle of just content put together for like raising money for abortion rights in America in the wake of Roe v. Wade, and also raising money for trans rights in America. And when there was sort of a wave of sort of Republican legislation sort of targeting trans folk. So I've got so many just like random games and random bits and pieces. But as a part of that, I got Thirsty Sword Lesbians, which is based on the Apocalypse World system, which is sort of like 2d6, and sometimes you add like 1 or 2. And then Blades in the and it's also like a quirky sci-fi full of disaster gaze and sort of taking down capitalism, which is great. Then Blades in the Dark, which is sort of darker, slightly more steampunky, like post-apocalyptic. The world has like already ended, and you're in this sort of twilight between, where like the gates between life and death have shattered, and you're like a underdog trying to climb your way up through the underworld. Wander Home, which is just sort of can be this sort of really quaint pastoral game. There's no GM for that one in like certain circumstances, so I never played a GM-less game, so that'll be cool. I've got Vampire the Masquerade. I've got like a bunch of different like one page D&D. Oh God, I was going to say one-page TTRPGs, like the Daggers and Dalmatians that we mentioned, but also Lasers and Feelings if you're fancying something sort of more sci-fi, but also just the most ridiculously simple game that you've seen. There's so much good stuff out there. You don't have to be beholden to Wizards. And I think that's something they don't realize either. It's just like, yeah, sure, you're 85% of the market share, but that's just because you've got money to throw at advertising. There are other brilliant games that are designed to do different things, that can capture different things that people want to play. Dungeons and Dragons is not a system that is great for heists because you get stuck in a planning loop of what ifs. Blades in the Dark, honestly, one of the best systems that I've played for like getting rid of the 2 hours of planning where you're just talking in circles. Like you just like, no, it sounds like we're planning. Let's just get started on the score. And if we need to, we'll use a flashback mechanism to plan ahead for the stuff that we've encountered. But then it's perfectly relevant. You're not accidentally buying another 300 foot of rope for no reason. It turns out you didn't need it. Like D&D is like a good system, but it's just like it's not the only system, and there are other systems that work.
What it is trying to do.
Yeah, exactly.
And it is trying to create these like high fantasy epic heroes. I've got this game, Heroes Unlimited, but this is like superheroes game. You know, I'd play this. I've played a lot of Vampire the Masquerade. I don't have the physical book; I only have the PDF. But Julie or Emma, you've been playing Twilight 2000 with me, which has been a lot of fun. It's a very different feel because it's like nuclear post-apocalypse. Roll
for typhoid. That is what
roll for typhoid, exactly. So, like, there are a lot of options, and even amongst the fantasy RPG, there are a lot of options. I showed you Heroes Unlimited. It's the only one I have right now. But this is made by a company called Palladium Games. And I played so many Palladium games in the 90s, I couldn't even begin to tell you. I grew up on Palladium Games because this was a game that made a lot of like IP-based stuff. So like there was a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles RPG made by Palladium Games. Robotech. I can't remember. Like they had other licensed stuff as well.
I once saw on a bookshelf. I didn't buy it, but I saw on a bookshelf that it was a Zelda role-playing game. I really want to get into that. Yeah. Like I love Zelda.
And like I'm doing a thing with Dan, Voice of Geekdom on his channel, where we're playing the One Ring role-playing game system.
There are so many, like the people who.
And here's the thing: if you want to get down to it, do you know what I need to play in a role-playing game? A die of some kind and people to tell a story with.
Or we could play the Quiet Year, and you don't even need a die; you just have a set of cards.
Some way of determining randomization. Yeah. And people to tell the story with. And that's really all you need. But Wizards of the Coast is acting like they own the idea of the tabletop role-playing game, and they don't. They recognize that Dungeons & Dragons is the first, but like...
Yeah, you may be the biggest, but you have... Yeah, you may be the biggest right now, but you are obviously shooting yourself in the foot, so... We're just gonna...
Does anybody want dice? I have dice that... I have like 4 sets of dice that I just want to get rid of, and I would mail you dice if you lived in North America. Sorry, friends. Not in North America. Shipping dice across the ocean would be terribly expensive.
It's not worth.
I've got some nice ones. I've got this one right here. This is like pink and green, and the green bit glows in the dark.
Oh, that's nice.
I've got this one right here, which is pink and sparkles, like it's translucent and it's got little like glitters in it. And then I got this one, which is like, I thought it was kind of just brown, but it's actually like the brown is transparent and it has a coffee and cream feel to it. So I like them all.
Nice.
If somebody wants dice, let me know. I'll send you dice. I got extras, man.
Hey, want to buy some dice? Want some dice?
Hey, what's the dice? Huh? First
What's
one's
the
free.
dice? What's the dice? Something else I wanted to point out.
It's just $59.99 plus shipping and handling.
Or $1.99 per dice upgrade that you
Right.
request.
Monthly subscription, yeah.
Yeah. Send you one dice at a time, and then
if somebody needs some dice, let me know. I will basically just mail them to you because they're just taking up shelf space, bag space in my dice bag. So yeah, if you want to let me know. I actually I'm saying it on stream so that it's out there. I have been talking about trying to figure out how to actually build my own system for a while. I helped another friend of mine build his game system. I say helped. I helped playtest all the work he did. I didn't actually build the system, but I also learned a lot about what makes a good system by playing, shall we say, hundreds of different systems in my life. So I kind of am at the spot where I feel like I want to try to make my own as well. And if I do, I can guarantee you it will be published under the org. Because I would want people to be able to expand on it. That's what it's like. It's a collaborative game too. Like everybody works together to make the best possible story.
But it's also a good business plan. Just thinking about the business plan, if other people create content for you, it makes your game bigger.
Yeah, but like if I buy one D&D knowing that no third parties can actually make content, then I have to make it all myself, or only the 1 or 2 products a year that Wizards of the Coast puts out, as opposed to the literally dozens of things put out every year by third-party publishers.
I am at the moment arguably running the worst brought out campaign for 5e, which I could tell you, like the Wizards of the Coast materials doesn't give you a lot to work with. You basically need to do most of the work yourself still, and those books are expensive.
Mm-hmm.
And there is way better creators out there. So but the same will go for your game. Like you can grow it by sharing.
Here's the thing, and here's the thing: if my system is crap, nobody will want to, and that's fine. I want to try to make something cool, but like, I don't have to reinvent the wheel either. Really, the reason that I'm wanting to make my own system is because I have not found the system that does the things I want to do to create the setting that I want to create. Mm-hmm. So I really am not trying to reinvent the wheel. I'm trying to take what I know about the process of a role-playing game and fit it to a very specific subgenre that I want to play in. But
that totally works, and
but beyond that, but if people want to then expand upon that, like, oh, what if I added vehicles and whatever? Cool, do that. Guess what? I'm going to use it in my game too.
Yeah.
Because Emma, when you were writing the adventure, and Jolie was there for it too, I think, or maybe you had a separate conversation, but we were talking about like the mechanics of what was going to happen during this big ritual and how to make sure it was balanced and how to make it difficult but not screw over the party. Like we did spend a lot of time making sure we knew what the party had to do, and that was 3 dungeon masters putting their heads together. So we all work with each other. Emma's had ideas that I've used and vice versa. And Jolie's had lots of ideas that I've used and hopefully vice versa,
Definitely.
I
definitely stole ideas from other people. Well, stole is maybe not the great word. I was inspired by a lot of people. And
that's how it works. Like when you're playing the game, yes, it's collaborative in that way, but like I went
that was a while ago. But yes.
Was it?
Yeah.
Hi.
Hello. Hi. Let's do it.
How you doing?
I'm doing
hey,
very
everyone.
well.
Now, if I back up really slowly, it'll hold focus. Okay, cool. I think I got it. All right. Well, that was fun. I totally lost my train of thought. Like I say, it's a collaborative game, and that's true while you're playing around the table. But it is also collaborative in the way that, like, oh, I made this monster. I'm going to put it online. Oh, that's a cool monster. I'm going to use that in my game. Oh, well, I found this spell, or I made this magic item, or so it's collaborative in that way between the dungeon masters. Like, we share our ideas, and this OGL the new OGL would make people not even want to publish that stuff, because Wizards could just take it and put it in a book now and say it's theirs.
Yeah. And you don't want to do with Wizards their work for them, because they don't value creators. They don't value.
They expressly don't value it because they are not giving you money. They refuse to give you money. So
yes. But with like an open game license, you have a free marketplace of ideas. You people who write great adventures, they would make it in that environment. People who write shitty adventures would be ignored, and hence you also remove the problem of problematic materials, because
they're making it where nobody will want to make, like, they're cutting their own throat because nobody wants to make content for them anymore. Like, that was part of why 5e was so successful. You could get the core book, you could get the, Tosh's Cauldron of everything, and those few expansion books along the way. But then there was so much third-party content to fill out new settings, to bring in new magic items, expanded stuff about giants and dragons, and
it was one of the reasons that 4E didn't get off the ground is they closed that license, and no one could make third-party material, and what they put out was not enough and not good enough.
And it's like also like WotC doesn't publish like one-shots. They don't publish like short adventures anymore. They publish full-on campaigns. As a brand new DM, I don't want to commit to a full campaign. I don't even got to enjoy DMing. It's pointless me like signing, oh yeah, I'll do the Hoard of the Dragon Queen, or I'll do Curse of Strahd or whatever, when I don't know if I like DMing. So I went to a third party. I went on.
Spoiler alert: Emma likes DMing. We found out.
Yeah, literally, like. People talk about which classes they main. I don't main a class. I main DMing. But no, seriously, like I didn't know if I would enjoy it, and I didn't want to like do all the scheduling and commit to like having a table of people and then be like, oh, actually I don't like this, and letting people down. So I ran one shots, and I had to go to the DMs Guild and drive through RPG to get them. I had to go to third-party content creators to get them, because WotC doesn't do those.
Right.
And so like my first experience of DMing is with like great little adventures that some not WotC people wrote. And they were great. Two goblins in a trench coat presenting someone with a deck of many things is
what I was gonna make. Like I was there for your first DMing experience.
I was there as well. It was amazing.
And it was great. And it was a third-party published one-shot adventure.
If anyone wants to read it, it's Erbil's Fool on the DM's Guild.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. We had a blast. It was ridiculous and stupid, but like, that's okay. We played ridiculous and stupid characters. Ask me about Irami sometime when I'm not on the internet, broadcasting it across the internet. But
the Camp Clearwater thing that we did was DM Dave. That was also a third-party material. I got that on Roll20 with my subscription, and I enjoyed it a lot. And I'm slightly changing it and running it again for people, and it is quirky and fun. And
like, there's no money to be made in like individual little one-shots for the amount of work that you've got to put in them and art you've got to put in them. But that's not what they're there for in the same way. Like, it's just it would just have, like, I would never have DM'd if I'd have had to DM a campaign at the start. So you're getting rid of a lot of DMs. You're also getting rid of a lot of game designers whose first experience is writing a one-shot. Just putting it up on DM's Guild, or putting it up on, again, DM's Guild isn't OGL 1.0a, but it's like and it does include some of the like more egregious, or like some of the parts of the OGL 1.1 that are sort of like wizards can just take your stuff. But it is like one of the bigger marketplaces and lets you use like particular licensed IP. So, but even still, like it's a way for like people to cut their teeth in game design before they then go on to bigger and better places, including Wizards of the Coast.
Right.
They are cutting their potential pool of staff, of creative staff who actually make the company a success.
But also in this economy, it could be a nice side hustle that people just might want to dip into, and you're making it so.
Or just your creative outlet. Period. You know, sometimes it's just my art is writing short adventures. You know,
Yeah.
Or my art is dungeon. You know, I'm a dungeon master, y'all. I mean, people that know me know that. I mean, I'm a D&D player. I'm a player. I'm a dungeon master. I do both. I think I'm pretty good at both. I think I prefer being a player most of the time, but like I like both sides of it. But yeah, I'm the first to admit a lot of it is about artistic expression for me. In that, like, I get to make my weird plots and, you know, twist the knife on people and have my secrets and try to, yeah, just that it's a creative outlet. And just the idea that none of that matters to them. I'm in circles again. I'm mad again.
Yeah, it's just so frustrating, but it is like, you know, the guy from Microsoft got put in charge of Wizards of the Coast and then became Hasbro CEO, and then they installed someone else new in February 22. Cynthia Williams, I think is her name.
I don't know the lady's name, but she's corporate money.
Yeah. So they put someone else in charge. She doesn't have any experience in tabletop. She comes from video games, and it's just like, of course, someone with video game experience is going to treat tabletop as something which it's just not. Like, and I don't. It's in the system that we're in, and the type of capitalism we're in, of the corporate structures that exist, the lack of protections for consumers, especially in America. I'm just going to say, not great 100% in the EU, but it's better than America. And
wait a minute, are you disparaging my country? I need to change my background to an eagle and a flag.
I may be disparaging American consumer protections.
Oh, no.
Of course, like, this is like the inevitable way that this would go. From the corporate side of things, I think it is actually really, really heartwarming that there has been such a sort of prominent community response. I just really, really want people to know and remember, if you take nothing else away from this, the fight is not over. Wizards of the Coast's lackluster response statement that they announced a week and a half too late, which indicates to me that there are some corporate people in the background running around like headless chickens being like, why is everything on fire? And then doing the like Skinner meme of like, is it me that's the problem? No, it's all of the D&D community.
Like, but they also
there we go. I fixed it.
Oh no! Sorry. That was
said with feeling, Shelley.
So maybe I shouldn't comment on that. No, but no. What I wanted to say, I could still remember. I think, is that also they try to. I think they're trying a strategy of see if it dies down, and then go under and just when it dies down, just throw it out there and
100%.
They're hoping we will forget.
Yeah. I mean, that statement walked back on basically nothing. Like, they said these texts were a draft, which was a lie. We want to stop NFTs. I mean, Hasbro sold Power Rangers NFTs, so clearly NFTs are not a problem for Hasbro. So this is, again, just an excuse. We always wanted feedback. Well, if you'd wanted feedback, it wouldn't have been in actual contracts for people to sign, and there would have been longer than a week for them to sign it, because this was supposed to be like announced in like the beginning of the year with a deadline of January of this last Friday for people to sign up. So they didn't have time to get legal counsel on it.
They sent it out over the holidays. They sent it out over Christmas.
Yeah, say that the license back language was to protect us and our partners who incorrectly allege we steal their work. And it's like, well, films and TV manage not to be accused of that all the time. They constantly have to navigate it. You know how they navigate it? By not allowing people to access random scripts that get sent in. So maybe don't ask to fully register an entire piece of work. Maybe that would be a solution. They say under the new OGL, you will own the content you create. We won't. Well, he said that in the document as well, but you still claimed all of the rights to it. They omitted whether or not the OGL 1.0a will be on or deauthorized for the next set. They didn't say any mechanisms about whether they would modify the contract in the future. Previously, it was only 30 days notice, but if they can unilaterally modify it, they can just take out the stuff we're mad at right now and then just put it right back in once everyone's signed up. How long? We don't know how long people will have to read over the documentation, get legal counsel, and implement the actual thing. Last time, it was a week. So good luck trying to fulfill your Kickstarter. It doesn't say whether commercial users still need to follow the registration and reporting requirements, which are draconian and would allow Wizards to have all of the information it needed to reproduce your content at a reduced rate, so that with all the advertising reach that they have and you do not. It does not say whether Wizards will retain the right to remove you as a licensee at their sole discretion, with you also waiving the right to object to it in court of law and waiving the right to good faith and fair dealing. These are still huge, massive issues that are absolutely essential and will still completely have the potential to really, really ruin third-party creators' lives and allows Wizards to engage in really, really hardcore lawfare. So if they have a problem with you, they will make it your problem. And they absolutely confirmed there will be a new OGL.
Yeah. So what I would suggest is keep your eye out on Roll for Combat or Roll of Law, because the fight is not over until Hasbro,
the fat wizard sings,
walks back and makes the makes reparations, as in new you do the OGL 1.0b and you put irrevocable in there and always authorized, and you would at least make a tiny effort to make the fans trust you again, which at the moment the trust is gone.
Yeah, totally.
And they are sneaky about it. They have basically proven they have been sneaky about it. So definitely keep an eye out, because it's not over, because we haven't got an official text for the OGL. We don't know what they're going to do, and the text is very important because they are trying to sneak things in. So
you're not right.
There was something that they had in the leaked OGL 1.1, which you can find online, which is actually the draft agreement, which was leaked, which is why they keep referring to everything as a draft, even though there's a lot of evidence that says, no, it was not a draft. In there, they provide comments, which are easy read for the legalese. And then they specifically disclaim the fact that anything in those comments, as nice, easy explainers, is not legally binding. No legal advice. So if you want to understand it, you've got to understand the legalese, because anything they put in the comments can be it's basically just PR and framing, and it doesn't actually have an impact in what these rules actually do for you as a creator.
For legalese, I would suggest Roll of Law and Dragons and Discourse. I think
Dungeons and Discourse, Roll of Law, and the Rules Lawyer.
And the Rules Lawyer, yes. They are all lawyers or former lawyers that are not giving legal advice, right, but they do understand walking through documents and finding the
guys, we need to wrap this up. I've got to go pee soon.
Yeah, same. So
it is what it is. But you know what? What a fantastic conversation. Both of you, thank you so much for coming on and sharing your thoughts and your insights. And for everybody who was here, thank you for joining us as we kind of work through this. It's a big deal to me. They broke my heart. Again, Dungeons and Dragons broke my heart. And it's going to be a while. So, but I'm not here to crap on Dungeons and Dragons, but I will say I'm not interested in playing much anymore. So I will leave with this. Emma, what's your favorite RPG that's not Dungeons and Dragons?
So I've only significantly played one, but I love it, and that's Blades in the Dark.
Okay.
It is a system. I went off a little bit about it whilst we were off the screen, but it is a set like 800 years after a massive magical cataclysm happened. It broke the sun in apart and shattered the distinction between the worlds of life and the worlds of death. Demons now live in the sea, which is now an inky void where the stars do not match in the sea, do not match the stars in the sky. And you are a scoundrel trying to exist in this land of sort of dark dealings, and you are basically trying to scratch by a living through your criminal organization, and you are sort of trapped in this particular city because it has defenses against the dead that now roam the land, and so you can't just steal some stuff and then run to the city. You've got to stay with the consequences of your actions. And as a system, it lets you as a player become hyper competent because even if you don't have any particular strengths in any particular skill, as long as you've got stress to burn and are willing to make a deal with the devil, you always get 2 dice for any roll.
Okay. So the answer to my question is Blades in the Dark.
Blades in the Dark. I love it. It does everything I wanted to do in a system. And I'm trying to pitch it to people who also...
Yeah, you're starting to go off.
If you would ask me, it's Call of Cthulhu, because I love the history aspect of it.
Okay, so Call of Cthulhu and Blades in the Dark, both of which are going to produce very different games from each other and from D&D. And for me, I will say, check out Vampire the Masquerade. Very interesting, more modern day style setting, but with vampires. It's quite good.
I mean, I'm always there for vampires. I haven't played it yet.
It's a great game. I do plan on running a game of Vampire the Masquerade soon.
I'm there.
So yeah, all this being said, go out there. The tabletop RPG community is still strong. We still love our hobby. And there's probably almost never a better time to get into something that's not Dungeons and Dragons than right now. Because a lot of people are interested in trying something that isn't Dungeons and Dragons because of all of this.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Final call to action. I know we mentioned it before, but just in case, if you do still have a paid subscription to D&D Beyond, obviously it's completely up to you, but bearing in mind everything you've heard here and whatever,
I have canceled.
Yeah.
If
you are in a position to
delete your account. You don't have to delete your account. Just make sure that you don't promise them money in the future, which is your subscription.
And if you paid up for I paid for an annual subscription in November, you will retain the rights of the annual subscription for the rest of the time that is there. You just need to take your credit card off deck so that they don't charge you for, just cancel your subscription. Because it's the recurring bit that they really, really care about. They want that guaranteed income. Do not give it to them. Fuck Hasbro.
There's definitely.
Yeah, there's a game for you out there. Give one a try. Support a third party or a one of those smaller publishers. Pick up a game and try it out. Try it with your friends.
Yeah, and I have a bunch of PDFs, and we'll try running some. So if you have any in particular that I mentioned that you want, just let me know.
Yep. So yeah, Emma, Julie, thank you very much for joining me again. Chatters, thank you very much for being here. I will watch Twitter. If I have something else to say as this continues to develop, I'll say it on Twitter. I'll say it in the Slack as well. But yeah, this isn't over yet. But I'm also, as much as my heart is broken, I've almost never been prouder to be a part of the TTRPG community. To watch us all come together and be like, we're not going to be bullied.
No.
All right.
We're not going to take it.
Yeah, we're not going to take it anymore. Song from my childhood. All right, so I love you guys. Come back next week, and we'll be talking about Star Wars: The Bad Batch Season 1. because we haven't. Season 2 is going right now, but we haven't talked about season 1 on this channel yet. So yeah, join us next week for that. And until then, for everybody here at Here Be Dragons, peace and be excellent to each other.